last on Everdark. Everyone prepared for the Thorns to arrive for dinner. Balthazar's true identity as the immortal Eiros is making what is already a taut affair into something even harder. Now the Thorns have arrived, and answers to questions that they didn't even know they had to ask are about to be spoken. Everdark, Episode 49. Meet the Parents. Christian went to the front door to answer the ring of the bell. He wondered what his parents thought of the house. Did they think it was ostentatious or beautiful? And what would they think of its owner? They must have guessed that Balthazar was rich, but maybe they thought he got his money illicitly. Christian didn't know where House Ravenscroft's money came from, now that he thought about it. And considering mind control was their power, it would be awfully easy to get people to empty their bank accounts, or have rich people write them into their wills, or any number of illegal and immoral activities. But while Balthazar clearly enjoyed the finer things in life, and they seemed to enjoy him right back, Christian didn't believe he'd robbed old ladies or put people into the poorhouse to get them. Balthazar was more the type that would go after drug dealers or crime lords, and he would have done it not so much for himself, but for his house. The members of House Ravenscroft came first. He was proud of Balthazar for his caring for his people, and he thought his parents would admire it too, once they got past the vampire thing. Christian nervously ran his hands down his front. He felt dozens of eyes on him. The other vampires in House Ravenscroft tried to appear as if they were all randomly clumped in the foyer at that moment for reasons other than to see his parents. On some level, he was amused and touched by their interest. His parents did not get this much attention from people ever. They were wonderful, smart, kind, funny people. But they had no idea how fascinated the vampires in that room were. Balthazar had explained why when they had woken up in one another's arms that evening. Most everyone here was turned too long ago to have living parents. Some of their families have even died out. So to have actual relatives still alive, a mother and a father no less, is rather exciting, Balthazar said, while his fingers carded through Christian's hair in a way that made his headache ease a little.
You find it exciting too, don't you?
Christian smiled up at Balthazar. Yes, very much so. To have to meet a beau's parents is something I have never had the experience of doing in my first life, or my second, Balthazar admitted, and he grinned happily.
You're not like anyone I've ever dated before.
Christian paused. Were they dating? That sounded so juvenile. And maybe sex was simply part of the master-fledgling relationship. But no, Balthazar had said beau.
They're very protective since David, so if they say anything that might be considered rude, just please don't judge them too harshly for it.
I won't. I promise. I know I'll love your parents, even if it takes them a little while for them to warm up to me. And a little while for vampires is decades.
You're already hedging your bets on this.
Christian let out a nervous laugh. I don't want you to worry about things, that's all. At least not about me and my feelings in any event. In order to comply with YouTube community guidelines, the next section of the podcast has been abridged.
You're not at all how I made you out to be in my mind,
Christian admitted. I was stalking you, Balthazar confessed. Christian's head popped up.
Seriously?
That unnerves you, I'm sure.
Well, you are a vampire who can control minds. Please tell me that you never—
I never controlled yours. Balthazar cupped Christian's cheek. I thought about it. Christian cocked up an eyebrow at him.
If you'd said otherwise, I might not have believed you.
Balthazar stroked his cheek. You know me too well already.
No, I think I'm discovering you all the time. The real you. To have the power that you do, and yet I haven't seen you truly abuse it, is a wonder in a way.
Christian rubbed his cheek against Balthazar's muscled chest. Well, to be fair, you haven't been around me long enough to see me abuse it. And I've been careful, Balthazar answered. I've done things, Christian. Every vampire has. We are predators, and we must keep ourselves invisible to our human prey. I've tried to be more thoughtful about it since your turning, but I cannot promise that I won't do something you disapprove of.
I know,
Christian said.
But you are trying. That you're doing it for me is, Well, I should be worried that you aren't doing it for you.
But you're not.
No?
His fingers traced an infinity symbol on Balthazar's chest.
Because it makes me feel...
Treasured. Christian's mouth flattened.
I'm not a thing, Balthazar.
No, you are not. How about considered? He smiled.
I like that. Considered.
You are very much considered. Balthazar kissed his forehead.
I don't know if my parents will accept this. Not us, I mean being a vampire.
Did you reveal your taste for men to them with David? Christian nodded.
I think they suspected. I think they hoped that Julian and I would become a couple.
In order to comply with YouTube community guidelines, the next section of the podcast has been abridged.
I guess I fear that I might become just like all the others in House Ravenscroft, an orphan.
Christian had answered softly, and he curled tighter against Balthazar's naked body.
If my parents don't accept what I am now, I'm not sure how I'll feel. Becoming a vampire was nothing I ever intended, but now that I am one, I feel like this is what I was always meant to become.
I cannot say you are wrong about your parents' reactions to all of this, as I do not know them, and in my time, we did not even bother to try to tell our parents about what we were. To be a vampire was to be an agent of the devil. Your parents are beyond such superstitions, being professors, or so I hope. But there are atavistic fears that some cannot overcome, Balthazar replied, and Christian knew he was being as logical as possible for Christian's sake instead of his usual romantic self. But I believe that they love you and will come to terms with it. I will do whatever I can to make them see you are still the son they adore, and... Christian sat up alarmed.
Not if it involves you using your mind control powers on them.
Balthazar cupped his cheek. No, pet. I am well aware of how you feel about mind powers. I just meant that I will be charming.
Oh no, that might be worse. Maybe mind control will be necessary.
Christian fell back against his chest. What? Balthazar squawked, which had Christian grinning against that silky skin. There were acres of the stuff for him to explore in and out of the bath. I am quite charming. Everyone says so. I cannot believe you—
I'm teasing you,
Christian admitted, and watched as Balthazar settled slightly. I don't know if I believe you, Balthazar said with a small frown on his lips. Christian reached up and used his fingers to turn that frown into a smile.
Just be yourself. That's best with my parents. They like genuine people.
I am charming naturally. It's my default mode, Balthazar said, his voice a little blurred from Christian's fingers on the corners of his lips.
Okay, then everything will be great,
Christian said.
Or at least it won't be because of you that they turn away.
Christian took in a deep breath. On the one hand, he couldn't imagine his family genuinely rejecting him, but on the other, he feared they would do nothing but.
Time to find out.
He put his hand on the doorknob, just about to open it, when Balthazar appeared by his side. This is our house, Christian. We welcome them together, Balthazar told him with a smile. Christian immediately felt relief sweep through him. Balthazar was there. He was another person that Christian could rely upon, as loyal as Julian and just as sensitive. For even though Balthazar had been so logical about meeting his parents before, now he looked a little haggard. He fears rejection. A voice, soft, male, familiar, whispered in his ear. Christian jerked and spun around to look behind him, but there was no one there. Christian? Balthazar asked, alarm showing on his face.
It can't be David. Balthazar's protecting me. It's just my nervousness.
The doorbell rang again. Christian quickly grasped the handles. Balthazar put one hand over his. Be calm, Balthazar said, and a wave of calm did come over him. He swallowed and nodded his thanks. Balthazar then spoke to the room. I know you are excited to meet Christian's family, but you must be invisible until I introduce you. Do not draw their attention. Understood? Everyone nodded, almost as one. Now, Balthazar said to Christian, let's do this.
You know, writing is hard and lonely. I'm more a storyteller who loves nothing better than interacting with the audience. This is why I write serially on wraithrain.com. And members have the ability to comment on the chapters as soon as I post them. So no waiting for an entire book to be done before I know what you guys think. In case you didn't know, I run my own serial website for gay action and adventure romance since 2010. And the reason I've done this as my focus, rather than writing traditional books, is because I get to talk to you guys. I have always loved interactive storytelling like Dungeons and Dragons, and this has been my way of interacting with my readers. Now, there are live streams. I've been reading Empire of Stars on stream at least once a month. And since Everdark started, I've been doing live streams with a cast member when they're available. On YouTube, I've made separate playlists for Empire of Stars chapters and Everdark cast streams, and I'll put the links to those in the notes.
Christian practically yanked the doors open. His mother and father stood there in the fall night air. His mother wore a beautiful gold and green dress with a gold wrap around her shoulders. His father wore one of his dark heather suits. Both of them smiled immediately upon seeing him.
Christian!
His mother cried as she stepped in, hugged him, and kissed him on the cheek.
Hey, Mom.
He saw his father wave to him over his mother's shoulder, and then he was enveloped fully by her arms and her flowery perfume, and, for a moment, but it seemed much longer, he could hear the whoosh of her blood through her veins and the steady beat of her heart. His fangs extended unexpectedly. He had not fed too deeply from Balthazar because of the corpse powder, but he had not thought it would be a problem. Now he feared he had underestimated the need for it. He pulled back, trying to hide the fact that he was retreating and needing to put distance between them. He held her firmly away from him, but tried to smile winsomely. His mother touched his cheek.
You look so handsome tonight, honey. I mean, you always do, but there's something.
A strange look crossed her face, as if disturbed by something, but then the smile was back in place. Had she noticed his eyes? Did she think he was wearing contacts? And when she noticed that everyone but Julian and Damon had the same eyes, what would her conclusions be then? She finally said,
You have a glow about you.
I would like to take credit for that glow, but I think your son is naturally luminous, Balthazar said with a broad smile.
Perhaps it's the good food and drink,
Christian said. That could be it, Balthazar nodded.
Mom, Dad, please let me introduce Lord Balthazar Ravenscroft.
He knew his parents had been checking Balthazar out from the moment they had arrived, so he was both dreading and curious to see their reactions to him. His mother's gaze sharpened for a moment as she took in Balthazar's impeccably tailored form and his thick head of hair, not to mention the piercing silver eyes.
Pleasure to meet you. Call me Elizabeth.
His mother extended a hand. Balthazar took it and kissed it. Unlike an ordinary person, he looked graceful and natural doing this, a true old-time noble. His mother pinked a little and took her hand back slowly, as if she couldn't believe that someone had done something she'd only seen in movies and hadn't looked stupid doing it. Mr. Thorne, it is an honor to meet you as well. He extended a hand for a firm shake, which he received.
Lord Ravenscroft?
His father asked with a trace of interest and likely suspicion. Yes, but please, both of you call me Balthazar, and welcome to my home. Balthazar gestured for the two of them to enter. The moment that the doors had closed behind them, two servants appeared to take their jackets. Two more appeared with silver trays on top of which were 4 glasses of champagne, one for each of them. His mother took one of the delicate flutes off the tray and took a sip. Her eyes widened in pleasure.
This is delicious,
she exclaimed. I am so glad you like it. It is Louis Roederer Cristal, Balthazar answered graciously as he made sure that Christian and Christian's father had a glass before he took one himself. Christian did wonder if Balthazar would really want any more alcohol after the brandy with corpse powder last night. His stomach was a little squeamish as he took a sip, but the champagne was as delicious as his mother had said, and he took another much larger sip. Sophia came skipping up at that moment in a blue-silver baby doll dress. Her blonde hair was in pigtails with matching ribbons, and she wore white saddle shoes with white tights. She was such a vision of anime cuteness that she almost did not look real. Despite her usual forwardness, she drifted over to Christian almost shyly and said,
"Aren't you going to introduce me to your mom and dad?"
Her voice was so wistful that it almost hurt Christian to hear. She especially looked longingly at his mother, clearly aching to feel a mother's touch. How long had it been since her mother was alive? His mother caught sight of her and she let out a small sound.
Oh, my goodness! Aren't you lovely?
She exclaimed and reached for Sophia as if she couldn't resist her.
Sophia, this is my mother, Elizabeth.
Christian said, and made a little scooting motion with his hands, letting Sophia know it was okay to approach. Sophia curtsied.
"It's a pleasure to meet you. You are exactly what I would expect Christian's mommy to be like."
His mother surprised him by getting a little teary-eyed. It was almost as if she sensed how much Sophia valued mummies.
Why, thank you. I am Christian's mommy.
She looked over at him with a wide smile.
I haven't been called that in a long time. I think since you were about 5.
I never called you Mommy, did I?
Christian asked, blushing even as he saw Balthazar smirking at this slightly.
You absolutely did.
His mother laughed.
And you would say it so solemnly, too.
His father chuckled as he sipped his champagne.
Did I call you Daddy? Please tell me I didn't.
Christian asked.
You called me father, and you were very precise about it. I would have loved to be daddy every once in a while, but to my serious little boy, I was always father. I was thrilled when you called me dad.
His father laughed. It didn't take much before Sophia was the center of attention once more, being petted and cooed over by his mother. He'd often thought that his mother wished she'd had a second child, a daughter, and Sophia seemed to bring out that desire in full force. His mother exclaimed over her hair and dress. Sophia modeled it for her, spinning in a circle that had the puffy bottom flaring out.
Henry, isn't she precious? Oh, she's so adorable.
His mother said, answering her own question.
She most certainly is.
His father agreed, then turned to Balthazar.
Is she your daughter?
What? Balthazar looked stunned for a moment. No, she's...
"We're cousins."
Sophia claimed, and immediately went to Balthazar's side, winding her arm through his.
"Cousin Balthazar is so good to me. He's gonna let me have 2 kitties."
3, actually. I want one as well.
Christian put in. Balthazar blanched. What? No, I haven't agreed.
I bet you would look even more adorable with 2 cats.
His mother seemed to be drunk on Sophia's cuteness. Balthazar went whiter still. This isn't... We haven't discussed. Really, that's quite... Christian put a hand on his shoulder, and the other on Sophia's.
Balthazar is very good to Sophia. He finds her as adorable as you do, Mom.
Balthazar quickly looked stricken, but then he sighed as if a man defeated. Yes, well, we will see about the felines. Christian kissed his cheek, which perked him up, but Balthazar seemed even more relieved when Julian and Damon came into the room with huge smiles. Julian's arms were already outstretched to embrace his parents. They moved to Julian with quick steps, and Christian's mother was hugging him. She kissed both of his cheeks.
You look so handsome, too.
She laughed.
I don't know what it is.
She looked between Christian and Julian, as if to find that certain something that was drawing her attention.
I'm just glad to see both my boys looking so well.
"They're very happy. They're exactly where they were meant to be,"
Sophia said gently, but her eyes looked odd and not like a little girl's, but his mother didn't seem to notice. Christian, though, gave her a sharp glance. She smiled up at him, but there was a little trace of sadness in it. He swallowed. Hopefully, he was imagining that. The meeting had been going well so far. He didn't want things to take a turn for the worse. Julian reached over and hugged Christian's dad. Though his father was more of a handshake type of a person, he always embraced Julian readily, as if he remembered each time that Julian would never get another hug from his father again. And Julian's father had been the type to always have an easy arm around his son's shoulders.
It's so good to see you here, Henry.
Julian said, after squeezing the older man tightly.
And you, Julian.
As they pulled apart, the staff was back, serving Julian and Damon champagne. The other vampires, though they were all clearly there, did not draw his mother or father's gazes. They seemed to slide right past them. It was fascinating to watch, and a little unnerving at the same time. Balthazar put a hand on his lower back and leaned in towards him. Things seemed to be going well.
I think you won my mother over with your promise about the cats.
Christian answered with a small smile. Balthazar looked like he'd sucked on a lemon. That had Christian snickering.
Damon, how nice to see you again.
Christian's mother smiled at the vampire king with a mixture of interest and trepidation. She apparently still thought that something was wrong with him.
She'll find out what that is in a little while. How am I going to tell them we're vampires?
Remember when she found out about us? The male voice asked mournfully. She made you so ashamed, as if our relationship was unclean. Christian's mouth went dry.
I'm not hearing this. I am not hearing this.
There was silence in his head. He let out a soft breath. It had only been his imagination. Mrs. Thorne, Mr. Thorne, it is a pleasure to be in your presence once more, Damon said with a formal bow. Just like Balthazar had seemed natural with the hand-kissing, Damon's bow was perfect for him. Is everything okay, Christian? Balthazar's brow furrowed. Christian thought about telling him about David's voice. It was definitely David's, but decided against it.
I'm fine.
Balthazar didn't look satisfied, but more staff came flooding in with the most delicious-looking canapes and yet more champagne on silver platters. His mother gave out a delighted yet sort of strangled laugh.
Balthazar, how many people are you expecting for dinner? I can't imagine that just the 7 of us could eat or drink so much.
His mother asked, delighted by the spectacle.
The others really are invisible to them.
Balthazar blinked, and it appeared he had forgotten, too, about the rest of the house. With a wave of his hand, he said, It won't be just us. It's quite the party. Let me introduce you to the other members of my household. It was only then that his parents saw that they were surrounded by tons of very beautiful people. The vampires all smiled and started to approach in their graceful yet predatory way. His mother and father's shocked smiles died, though, as they regarded them, and Christian then realized why. While it might have been hard to notice his, Sophia, and Balthazar's matching silver eyes, it was impossible to miss a whole room full of people with them. His mother's smile was utterly gone, as her gaze flickered between all of them and finally back to him. He tightened his grip on the champagne glass and thought he heard it creak in protest. He immediately let up for fear of shattering it. But his mother's next words had him tensing again, even though they weren't aimed at him.
Lord Ravenscroft, what is the meaning of this? Why does my son have silver eyes just like yours?
Not just his, dear.
Henry breathed.
All of them do.
Join us next time for episode 50, Vampire Boys.
Do you want to join the next live stream? The easiest way is to subscribe to the Wraith Rain YouTube channel. You'll see the community posts, shorts, announcement videos, and get notifications when we go live. You can also join my good old-fashioned mailing list, and you'll get an email reminder within 24 hours with links to our YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook channels. Hope to see you on the next one.
The Everdark podcast by Ex Aratare is performed by Edward Fox, Adam Riley, Jay Thillis, Bruno Devant, Kelly Michaels, and Hannah Hart, with Liz Gentle as Seer. Edited by Matthew Prince, continuity by Adrielle Wiggins. Everdark is produced by Wraith Rain Publishing in association with Her Grace Reed Studios. Copyright 2022 by Wraith Rain Publishing.